Flav, why can't Spurs win at Chelsea? You looked like this might have been the time. Took the lead, great goal from Eriksen.
Well, we went 2-0 up last season against them, and they kind of clawed it back again. I think there's sometimes you can put these things down to anomalies. It's a coincidence that you happen to keep going back to the same stadium and not be able to beat them. And then you've got the position of Chelsea being a kind of dominant force for a long time, barring one season or another. So it is a difficult place to go. But law of averages, in the last 27 years, we should have got one, just one. So the only thing I can put it down to is kind of a mental frailty, and it's something that so much of football's about psychology that going into that game you're so either pumped up or not pumped up enough because you're already resigned to losing. But more in the recent cases, we're too pumped up. You kind of lose your heads a little bit, and winning isn't just being having the best players on the pitch or the right tactics, but having the right mental aptitude as well. And yet again, we didn't have it. You know, as I spoke to Robbie beforehand, the first half was good. Second half.
Did I say that?
You said we played all right in the first half.
Didn't want this revealed on camera. Kayfabe.
I think everybody on earth saw that Spurs were deserving in that first half, and it was unlucky that we conceded. But
can I, Matt, taking the role of our angst-ridden Evertonian for this week?
Of course.
Can you relate to any of this?
Absolutely, and I think the point about the players being too pumped up in these games is a valid one, because when I think back to Everton going to Anfield at times, there's always been talk about ending this long run that there's not been going there. And you can imagine the manager in the dressing room sometimes going, we need to get into these, we can't let this run go any longer. And when you're playing against a rival team in particular as well, you can imagine the players, thinking, getting really, really pumped up for it. And in these sorts of games, you can go too far as well.
Yeah.
And I think
we saw that last season.
Yeah, I think the mentality side as well is important, because 27 years, you'd think by that point you've got a few generations of players there that have been in and out, so you'd think that they'd eventually rid themselves of that complex, but it gets under the skin of the whole club, I think. The manager will be asked about it all week, the fans will be talking about it all week, the players, when they're getting interviewed, will be quizzed about these long unbeaten runs. So I think it grips everybody at the club when it goes on for that length of time.
Yeah, and I do think, kind of following on there, Robbie, because of last season, I think I don't know how the manager pitches that game to his players, because you say go and get stuck in, but not too stuck in, because we don't want like the 50 yellow cards that we had last time. I mean, we want to keep your head, but don't overthink it. Go and play your own game, but make sure that must be a very difficult situation to go into.
It's very hard to pitch that game, because it's a hot derby, that is, as well. Because Chelsea fans, I know they really hate Spurs with a passion as well.
Which is something you can relate to.
Which I can relate to. But I mean, it's a hot game. It's a hot derby, that. And I don't know. I thought, I did say it off camera. I will admit it. I thought the first half, up until Pedro scored, Spurs were unreal. They were all over Chelsea. I mean, we've been hearing a lot about the three at the back and this and that. And I thought that Spurs, they didn't capitalise enough on their dominance. I mean, they were closing down Chelsea at the back. Chelsea kept giving the ball away all the time. They just couldn't cope in midfield. They were completely overrun, and it was all Spurs. And I was watching the game, and I'm thinking, gosh, they're gonna smash Chelsea here today. And then I think, games change on moments. It's that goal just on half time. I think if it would have went in at 1-0, you might have seen the Spurs winning that game. Like that goal by Pedro, plus it was a brilliant goal as well, just changed the whole mood, everything. And probably that's what put the doubts in the Spurs players' heads going into that change room, because they would have looked at it and been like, we did everything right in that half.
There's got to be that feeling, hasn't there? You see that all the time when you come up against a team and you're working hard, you're dominating, but you've not put the game to bed. Yeah. And a goal like that, that's bound to knock the wind out of the sails.
Yeah, I think... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I can relate. We have like a similar mental block when we go to Man United. Yeah. For some reason, we just, in the Premier League anyway, for some reason, it's a similar thing where we just never seem to deliver in that game away from home at Old Trafford.
I think it goes back to the, like you said, I get back to the mental aspects. As you go, going into it 1-0 up, playing well the whole half, you can kind of be buoyed by that and take that performance into the second half. But, Pedro scored that great goal. And Chelsea weren't really in that first half. But when ultimately that's the difference between Chelsea and Tottenham is that they have, bordering on world-class squad, and Spurs have a couple of maybe world-class players, but are kind of fallen behind in our playing staff. We don't have Pedro, who can not be in the game to then pop up and curl it in. And then, it was a case of us being mentally strong enough to stick it through, and we're still not there yet. We're much better than we were 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago, but we're not quite there yet.
And I think foul of the social club curse.
What's that?
That we talked about Spurs being under the radar.
We're still under the radar. Look, don't get me wrong. Let's.
You're not under the radar.
But that's the unbeaten record gone. That was the thing we were clinging to.
Unbeaten until November.
It was good.
Yeah.
Invincible to November.
Oh, yeah. That's good. I didn't have a clue what you were talking about for a second. I think, it's Spurs will be fine. Don't get me wrong. We will still be in and around it come the end of the season. There is no issue. It's just we lost the game of football, and we're on a little bit of a poor form at the moment. But all of this coincides with the fact that Alderweireld's not there, and he is so important to us.
I think looking at the record thing as well, thinking it from the point of view of the other team who are, on the right side of the record, you can imagine every time Liverpool play against Everton in Anfield, for example, usually they'll be rubbing your hands, weren't you, thinking, here we go again. And they've got the teams who are on the right side of that record, they've got that edge, and you could see that with Chelsea in the second half. When as soon as they got that goal back before half time, they were completely different. They were relentless in the way they played then. And being on the right side of that mentality, I'm not entirely sure what it's like as an Evertonian. We don't tend to have that great record against many teams, but if you're on the right side of that divide and that dynamic, then you will take confidence into the games. At the smallest sign of the other team falter in the game or any kind of frailties, you will latch onto it straight away.
You'll have that at the back of your mind at all times, thinking as long as you're in touching distance, history's with us. We'll probably be all right there. We've all got it. Even we've all done it when we played footy as kids and all. There's always that team in the league that you knew, but we've got a good chance here, no matter what. And I remember we having one team that we were the second worst team in our league, and this team was just horrendous. I used to love coming against it because we knew, you'd always have a good chance. And I know it's not the same as that between Chelsea and Spurs, but when things start to go your way, it'll feel like a natural groove. Whereas there will always be that mentality at the back of Spurs players' heads. We've got to be perfect here, and especially once the equaliser goes in, it's like not only have we got to be perfect, we've got to get ourselves back out there and get up to that level, and that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, and moving forward, we've got to put that aside. We've got to put aside our poor form in November.
You need to learn to score goals, mate. That's the big issue that you've got.
We performed horrendously in the transfer market. Ultimately, we bought Janssen, who's turned out to be, in the kindest words, pony, and Sissoko, who I shit him. And Sissoko is quite possibly the worst footballer I've ever seen.
Newcastle fans are giggling their tits off over that.
30 mil.
30 million.
A few Everton fans as well. Just the one positive to cling on to at the moment.
And it may well be that they come back to the fore, and God, for the love of God, I hope they do. But
Wanyama's a good signing.
Yeah, at least there's that. But yeah, he is a good signing. But so what I will say as a caveat to the 30 million thing is actually it's 6 million over 5 seasons. So if we sell him, we don't actually end up paying that, and that's the only thing I hold on to.
Okay.
You know what? I'll say something pretty controversial now as an Arsenal fan. I do think Spurs, if they had their first 11 out there on Saturday, I think that first 11 is very good.
Yeah.
Alderweireld is a top player.
Yeah.
I look at that goal, even the goal with Moses, and I think if Danny Rose had been playing, would he have had all that space over there to have got in? I think their first 11, when they got their first 11, I think they are a match for any of the teams at the top. But their squad, I'd agree with you. I think when the backup guys come in, then there's a big drop off.
We saw that.
There's a big drop off. I think that's the difference with teams like say Man City, that they can bring in guys like Yaya Toure and people like that. They can when they're resting players. Even Arsenal, I think, has got quite a good squad this season. In that the backup players that come in, there's not a massive drop. Whereas I look at Spurs and I think there's quite a drop. between, you know, some of those main guys. If Harry Kane's out, there's a
Harry
big
Kane's
drop.
the big thing, isn't it? Is that he just needs to get back to scoring goals.
But even
and it
like,
papers over a lot of cracks, doesn't it? You know,
but
even
even
you've got a guy who's winning games for you, it doesn't matter.
Even like Alderweireld, now he's out. That guy Vimo who comes in, he's, you know, it's a massive drop. You know, between Wimmer and so I think that's their problem at the moment.
Eriksen scored though, that's a good thing. He hasn't scored in a while, that's
good.
good.
But all he has done in the last 8 months.
Kane's holding the ball up nice, he's getting back into the groove.
I've got no issue with Kane, or all of those players. I've got a slight issue with Eriksen over the last couple of years. He's had a couple of... people rave about him, but I don't think they watch him every week like we do. And there's issues. And there's staunch defenders in the Tottenham fan base of Christian Eriksen. I think because he's a kind of... He does special things every now and then, but he's by and large, he plays pretty... he just doesn't do enough. He doesn't find that man often enough. And I know it's a difficult part of the pitch. Yeah. And Dele Alli, is, as I've said many times before, he's a young player and with a lot to learn. And he'll get there, but he's just not quite that player just yet.
Okay, well there you go. There's any thoughts on Tottenham Hotspur? You know, do they have the ability to really kick on this season? Can they get better? And ultimately, yeah, I mean, I just know people start watching. What you think it is that Chelsea have over Spurs? You know, because it's not. I don't think it's a talent issue, is it? It does fall down to maybe just the mental issues, or was it just the manager got things right on the day? Let us know in the comments below. Check out the rest of Social Club. We're going to be discussing Eden Hazard saying it's a 3-horse race for the Premier League. One of the teams excluded, Robbie might have an opinion on. Can Liverpool cope without Phil Coutinho, and a whole host of other things as well. Stay tuned for all that.